Well guys, it's that time. Time to reveal the winner in the custom tap wrench build giveaway. First, I just want to say thanks to everybody. I really appreciate it. And stay tuned. After the drawing, got a pretty neat little video comparing different cutters on the Shaper on mild steel, and the results are pretty interesting. I love the assistant.
Alright. Winner is Crafty!
Yay! Crafty! Thanks, Crafty. I'll contact you. I got a little job in the shop that I want to do. More of like an experiment. I got 5 different cutters, and I want to see which ones give me the best finish. I've had mixed results in the past, but I've got the same block of steel. I'm going to run them at the same speed and the same depth, and I'm going to see, and so will you, which one gives me the best finish. Let's go in the shop and do it. Alright guys, what we have here in the Shaper vise is just a piece of mild steel. It's sectioned off into 5 different sections, and I have 5 different cutters here. Now some of these cutters weren't designed for finishing, but we're just doing this for fun. We've got several different profiles here. Just round nose, pointed but with a small radius, radius with a large rake, a shear tool, and then what I would consider a heavy roughing tool. But, you know, I don't know. We won't know until we do the process. Each one of these cutters is going to be run at the same speed, which is about 100 surface feet per minute on the stroke, and 10,000ths of an inch per stroke. At the end, we'll examine the chips from each cutter and the surface finish, and we'll see who wins. I think most people will say that probably the shear tool will, but given that we're running a shear tool in this setup, we're only going to be cutting about 3,000ths of an inch depth. I know that some of these cutters weren't necessarily designed, you know, for finishing, but we're just doing it for fun, and I'm interested to see what the results will be. So let's start cutting. Okay guys, I got tool number 1 set up. I've done my best. I've touched off, and I've dialed in 3,000ths. We're running 100 surface feet per minute, 10,000ths per stroke. I'll show you several strokes on this, then we'll go to number 2. Let's do this. Okay, I say that's enough. I'll collect the chip, clean it off, and we'll put in number 2. Okay, we got in cutter number 2, and we're on section number 2, and we're pretty much ready to go. So let's cut it. Clean this up and we'll go on to 3. Cutter number 3. Which is one of my favorites. We'll get a good look at them all up here on the bench. And We're not using any cutting fluid, it's just too smoky. And it would change the results also. But under these conditions, we'll see. Alright. On to 4. Okay guys, we're all set up. Cutter number 4, shear bit. I love the way a shear bit just cuts off little strings. Alright, let's clear them out. On to number 5. Alright guys, we got in cutter number 5, the last one, and we'll move them up on the bench and we'll compare them all. Go up on the bench. Alright guys, here we are on the bench, and we've got our cutters 1 through 5 and our cuts 1 through 5 from right to left. I would say, if you ask me, going by texture and appearance, that number 1 gave us the worst finish. I would say second to that would be number 5 with our sharp point, basically a roughing tool in my opinion. The third worst finish would be cutter number 2 with our kind of rounded point, chip breaker. Second to worst, or second to best, would be our shear tool, which is a little surprising because you would have assumed 3/1000ths is, in my opinion, a little deep for a shear tool, but I would have thought that we would have got the best finish with the shear tool. But our best finish come from cutter number 3. Now this is all subjective. I didn't use cutting oil, change your feeds and speeds and whatnot. Of course, most people know that, this test may change, but given the result, or given the conditions that we ran, I got our best finish with cutter number 3. And this is a 3/16 radius, a decent rake. This is a left to right tool, and it's really my go-to tool for most things. It's not sensitive. It gives me a good finish. It's not sensitive to cut depth like the shear tool is, and it's, in most cases just as satisfactory as the shear tool. If it's really sharp and ground proper, you can get a really nice finish with this tool. It seems like the sharper the point, the more rough your surface finish is. My shaper only goes down to 0.010 of an inch per stroke. So in my opinion, for finishing, I think that's a little coarse. I would like it to be 0.005 per stroke, but it is what it is. And given our conditions, number 3 is the winner. Let's go down and look at the chips. The chips are quite uniform with it, which is usually a good sign, you know, to a good finish. They cut smooth. You can tell they're not bunched up, the chips. They're not blue, really. There's not a lot of force involved. It's a really good sharp cutter. All of these are sharp. They've all been honed by hand. You know, they've all been sharpened by the same person, which is me. So, you know, I'm pretty pleased with the results of this test. I really think that, you know, of course it's subjective, but it is what it is. You know, I really like this cutter and I use it more than any of the others. But, you know, with that rake, it does weaken the tip of it, and it's not great for heavy roughing on, you know, a crusted, you know, decrusting material. For, you know, decrusting like a hot rolled plate, you know, I always usually go for just the flat round. Not a lot of relief, you know, you don't need a lot of relief on the cutter or clearance. And as long as you have clearance, it's usually, you know, acceptable. Just my experience, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I've got a lot of good stuff coming up in the future. Got the taper attachment on the lathe, which I plan to do a nice video on. I've got centering on the shaper and many other things. So stay tuned, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, just ask them in the comments below. Any suggestions, we'll run through them. And thanks for watching.